the impact of self-determination in wellness and identity. In the last video, we talked a bit about how difficult it was for a lot of us in childhood to be able to self-determine. But you must reclaim that power, which means kind of letting go of a lot of what was told to you in childhood about who you are. A perfect example that I know a lot of people will understand is being told over and over that you are too sensitive. What that has allowed you to do is see your innate sensitivity, not as a beautiful gift, but as something nasty, as a weakness, as something that you must hide, as something that you must repress. So when I feel things, it doesn't actually change how I experience the world. I'm still sensitive. I still feel things. But now I'm going to dismiss my feelings. Now I'm going to repress my feelings. Now I'm going to shut them down, and I'm going to decide I'm going to be a different way. I'm not self-determining. Who is? Who's self-determining for me, or who's determining for me, excuse me? Whoever put those thoughts in my mind. I have found that a lot of us have allowed the worst things that happened to us in childhood to determine the most important aspects of our identity and who we are. And in that way, we give prominence to the greatest abusers in our life over ourselves. So if someone told me that I was worthless growing up, and someone did tell me this, and I believe it, I am centering them in my view of myself, aren't I? So what I need you to do over these next two, one journal exercise and one exercise. So the journal prompt, exploring the impact of limited self-determination, and exercise 4, exploring self-belief and emotions. These are all around helping you deconstruct the negative beliefs that you still carry based off of what someone else tried to determine for you, especially in early childhood, especially there. Now, what's nefarious about a lot of this conversation, a lot of what's happening, is that if you have heard it so much in childhood, you might not even realize how much it was pushed on you. You might really think it's just your nature to be this way, right? And so because it's my nature, I'm predestined. It has been predetermined for me. But that's not true, you guys. Most of the things that we are suffering are not our nature. It is our nurture. It is how we were socialized. It is how we were raised. It is how we were conditioned and how we were programmed, okay? For a very long time, I thought it meant something very specific to be a Black woman. You know, I got messages on the media. I got messages from my family. I saw it on display. I didn't think I had a lot of room to expand, to be whatever I wanted to be as a Black woman. I needed to fit into these very, very rigid, predefined roles, right? And I thought that that's just who I was. I thought I could be the loud Black woman, or I could be the promiscuous Black woman, or I could be the caregiver Black woman. I couldn't be all of them. And I really didn't have space to be a lot other than that, you know, and I'm being really general right now just to make a point. And so I thought that that's just who I was. And it wasn't until I really stood back and watched how inauthentic I was being that I could see that if I was being inauthentic, then this wasn't just who I was. Then why was I doing it? Because I was just very conditioned to believe that that was the only space that I was allowed to take. And I really do want you guys to keep in mind that we do live in kind of abusive systems at a larger level, which have created abusive systems at a much smaller level, to all be kind of gears in a system that needs to be able to exploit us. Right? So it's beneficial to a system if we're all playing a very similar role. It's beneficial to a system if we all believe that we are worthless and we all believe that we don't deserve any good things, because then we're not going to stand up against the abuse when it is happening to us. We're going to be much more complicit in allowing that abuse because this is just what my life is going to be. Hey, a perfect example, again, and I'm going to always center my experience in my examples. There was a time when I taught this Wild Women course, right? And it was for minority women, and it was in person. It was one of the first things that I offered. And all these very intelligent women of color were there, all with master's degrees in the DC area, and all of them were struggling. And I went and I asked them, like, well, what did your parents say about what it was to be a Black woman in the workplace in this context, right? And they all said we would have to work twice as hard for half as much. So then they made sure to put themselves in situations that validated that assumption. They gravitated towards it. They expected it. They expected to have to work twice as hard. So when someone came and demanded that of them, they gave it to them. Of course they did. Because that's just what's expected of me. But is it really what's expected of you, or is it how you were socialized? And why would you be socialized to be complicit and comfortable in abuse? Again, a lot of our parents thought that they were keeping us safe, right? If I don't expect much, I won't be disappointed. I will be safer. If I don't expect much, I will not demand much, and I will be safer, right? But what it has done is really eroded our sense of self and our sense of prominence in our own life and our sense of belonging in this world. Our sense of right to demand to be treated fairly and well. And so most of us are overtired. We are resentful. We're tired of the mask. Why? Because we have been conditioned to believe that we have to determine that our life is one way because we were never given the chance to determine it on our own. Right? So I do want you guys to really do these exercises in a joyful, kind of carefree way. Try to be a little bit lighter in it. How have you been given the chance to self-determine? How has your self-determination been restricted? And again, if you come from a more high control family, maybe you have narcissistic parents, or maybe you come from a culture that's just more strict, very high control. Maybe you come from a culture that is focused more on collectivism than individualism. And I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but if you are from a society that's more focused on the wellness of the collective, it always seems to diminish the individual in the context of that collective. Your individual wants and needs are not as important as the needs and wants of the collective. That can cause you over time to constantly be diminishing yourself, your needs and your wants to prioritize somebody else's. Over time, you'll grow resentful. You'll grow angry. You'll grow unfulfilled, right? So in which ways have you not been allowed to self-determine? And in which ways can you reclaim that sovereign right that you have to determine for yourself your path and who you are? I want you to consider a very simple question. Who is equipped with the authority by virtue of just being to tell you who you are and who you need to be? We are all humans doing this all. Some of us for the first time, at least in these bodies in this way. What authority do I have to tell you how to use your power and how you should show up in the world? None. But we live in a system that asks you to give authority to a lot outside of you to define you. And that is what's leaving you empty and unfulfilled. So you must take back your power. You must learn to self-determine in the extreme and unapologetically for you.